How did the fatal shooting of Nahal Marzouk lead to nationwide demonstrations in France? Does the country have a history of police brutality against minorities? On June 27, Nahal Marzouk, a 17-year-old unarmed French citizen of Algerian and Moroccan descent, was fatally shot by police after being stopped for a traffic violation in Nanterre, a western suburb of Paris. A Twitter video shows the officers pointing a gun at the stopped car, which then sped away before crashing. While initially the police justified the shooting, citing safety concerns, conflicting accounts emerged. On June 28, a peaceful White March protest took place in Nahal's hometown of Nanterre, but tensions escalated as demonstrations spread to other cities. France witnessed violence across the country despite authorities detaining the police officer on charges of voluntary homicide. The violence was primarily attributed to young individuals, including minors and migrants from Black and Arab communities. Nanterre served as the epicenter of the unrest, which then spread to north, central, and southwest regions. Over a span of 5 consecutive nights, France witnessed widespread riots, resulting in over 3,000 arrests nationwide. Despite positive economic indicators, such as a low unemployment rate and increased foreign investment, France remains deeply divided. This incident has brought to the fore the extent of racial polarization in France. Recent studies have highlighted the disproportionate targeting of individuals perceived as Black or Arab by police during identity checks. France has experienced multiple uprisings in its banlieues, primarily during the 1980s and 1990s. These unrests frequently originated from societal challenges such as unemployment, poverty, discrimination, and strained relations between minority communities and law enforcement. Although Nahal's killing prompted a relatively swift response, concerns remain as previous cases have seen minimal convictions. Last year, 13 individuals who failed to comply with traffic stops were fatally shot by the police, most of them Black or Arab. This year again, 3 have lost their lives. While evidence may not suggest racial motivation in the shooting, it has amplified concerns about racial inequality and police misconduct, leading to widespread protests and calls for justice. The shooting has also reignited the debate over police's use of deadly force, with left-wing lawmakers calling for the repeal or revision of a 2017 law that made it easier for officers to shoot at moving vehicles. The law was passed after lobbying from police unions following a series of terrorist attacks. To quell the violence, the Minister of the Interior of France Gérald Darmanin deployed more than 40,000 law enforcement officers, resulting in injuries to both officers and protesters. Keeping in mind the young age of the rioters, President Emmanuel Macron called on parents to take responsibility and keep their children indoors. However, police unions have voiced their support for the arrested officer, claiming he was performing his duty. French police unions have consistently contended that their work has become more perilous due to the government's neglect in tackling underlying social issues, such as the prevalence of illicit drugs and the absence of employment and educational opportunities in disadvantaged regions. More than 40 officers were injured, 577 vehicles torched, 74 buildings set on fire and 871 fires lit in streets and other public spaces on Saturday night, the ministry said. Rioters rammed a burning car into the home of Vincent Jeanbrun, the mayor of Les Roses, 9 miles south of Paris, at about 1:30 a.m. Jeanbrun was at the town hall at the time, but his wife and one of his 2 children, aged 5 and 7, were injured as they fled. France's demography has changed a lot in the last decades. Today, there are 7 million immigrants in this country, which is around 10% of the population. People began steadily migrating there by the 1830s. In the 20th century, it was considered the most open country in Europe. Many of these migrants came from French colonies like Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia. During the World Wars, France needed more manpower, so in came the migrants. But this was a colonial relationship. For example, in France, it's illegal to conduct census or surveys based on race and religion. By 1975, around 6% of the population was of foreign origin. They were immigrants, and that share did not change for 25 years. Around 13% of them are of Algerian descent, 12% are from Morocco, 4.4% from Tunisia, and 3.8% from Turkey. These are all non-white people, most of them Arabic, African, and Muslim. A 2022 report claimed around 400,000 jobs are vacant in the country because there is no one to work. France needed the foreign labor, which is why millions of people migrated in the last 2 decades. Plus, there is illegal migration. Most of them live in close-knit communities doing odd jobs. Many people in France are anti-immigration, and their fears often combine with racism, sometimes very publicly. Notably, some countries in West Africa still pay a special tax to France. They call it the colonial tax. These countries use CFA franc as their currency. They're required to store 50% of their reserves with the French central bank. Former colonies are paying their colonizer. All of these factors have created major fault lines in France. Please subscribe my channel and press bell icon for more videos.